Purple Daily is daily Vikings entertainment. We just want the Vikings to win a Super Bowl before we die.
I will ride with this group.
Seriously, man. Please.
And away we go.
And away the Vikings go shortly here. Purple Access. Judd and Chip Scoggins, Star Tribune sports columnist, and of course my partner on the Vikings beat back in the day. And Chip, we are only days away. What the quarterbacks report on Sunday, and then the rest of the team reports early next week, and we get our first training camp practice on Wednesday. The first one open to the public will be a week from Saturday. The first day in pads will be a week from Monday. So the off season is, for all intents and purposes, done. What are you, beyond the quarterback, which obviously is the first one, what is your feeling? What are you most excited about as we get set to open the training camp?
Yeah, so we have our, kickoff press conference on Tuesday, right?
Correct.
With Kevin O'Connell and Kwesi Dofaminsa, the GM. And I'm going to, I don't know if I'm curious. I think I'll know what the tone will be. But you have a team coming off a 14-win season.
Mm-hmm.
A team that I think improved itself on paper, addressed the issues that need to be addressed. So this feels like a win now. Even though you're breaking in a new quarterback for the first time, this still feels like a team that's built to win right now, that's going to have those kind of expectations. I don't know how much the outside, the national folks are kind of zeroing in on them. I don't think probably as much as we are locally.
Yep.
I feel like the expectations locally are pretty significantly different than they are nationally. Don't you get that sense?
I was going to bring that very thing up. It feels like, yes, I get that. I don't think it's a sense. I think it's correct.
Yeah. And I assumed it's just because of the quarterback, right? From the Nationals' perspective.
Yes.
I don't know if they felt like 14 wins was a fluke, or they don't think this roster's as good as 14 wins, or but it doesn't seem like, and I don't spend a lot of time seeing what national folks are saying, but I just haven't got I haven't picked up a lot of chatter about the Vikings and being a team that's, and maybe that, we know Kevin O'Connell, he's going to use that and love that, and he'll make sure his players are aware of that too. So, but I think internally they come into this saying, okay, we have a new quarterback, a young quarterback, an unproven quarterback. So what? We're gonna. I think the expectations haven't changed.
So I think the national expectations are in part set on the fact that from the get-go, Vegas put them win-loss over-under so low. And that's totally, in my opinion, McCarthy. Because it's, Vegas hates the unknown, especially
Correct.
at QB. And I think the national folks have picked up on that. But locally, I think there is big pressure to win now. In fact, in the building, I think that there is. You don't make all of the additions and the moves that they made coming off a 14-win season with an intention to take a step back, at least as far as, and this is where I think 2025 gets to be intriguing. If they make the playoffs again and they lose in the first round, and Mackey brought this up a couple of weeks ago, and he's exactly right. We're now going down sort of the Denny Green path, right?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you make the playoffs, but you don't win. So I don't know that 14 wins is certainly not mandatory, but a playoff berth, I think, is obviously incredibly important. And I think a playoff win is the expectation.
Yeah. And yes. And they obviously didn't build this team and spend the money that they did in the offseason thinking about 2027.
Correct.
when McCarthy has a few years on it. I mean, they're not thinking that at all. Did they spend as much money in the offseason as any team, right?
I think I've seen
when you look at total dollars committed.
I think they spent the most. Now, over the cap has the Patriots first and the Vikings second, but I've seen other places where it said the Vikings spent the most.
That's what
all teams.
It is probably how you account for it, but
sure.
They spent aggressively, and they spent with the mindset of they're trying to win this year. And so I think there's, pressure on everybody, really, front office, head coach, the quarterback, because when you look at their nucleus again, because of this is not a young team. This is not a team that's been built through the draft. This is the team that's been built through free agency. There is a shorter shelf life when you have that. When you have older guys, I mean, look at the moves that they brought along the defensive line. I mean, guys that are 30 plus. It's not like you can say, okay, we got 5 good years with it. You can't count on that. So I think there is an urgency to not just get to the playoffs, but you're right, to win a game. I mean, because this is O'Connell's led them there twice. They've had good seasons, good regular seasons, but they haven't had success in the playoffs yet. So that's the hurdle they have to get over.
It's interesting too because a year ago, O'Connell, I think, took umbrage to the fact that the Vikings had been considered, in some ways, rightfully so, to be a fairly soft team, and like they did have by 2024 standards a tougher training camp, and they got off to a good start, I thought, because they were a physical team. Now, by the time we got to January, that was sort of gone. But this team now is built from what they've added to be a far tougher team.
Yeah.
And I would say the one thing, like among the multitude of reasons why they lost to the Lions in the last regular season game and the Rams, among the reasons was they weren't that tough. This team, to me, is geared to actually have guys that can kick butt in January, and that's the only way, in my opinion, that you're going to win the playoffs.
Well, it is. I mean, and we, I think we discussed it right after the playoffs. Is it proved, the age-old belief about football is you got to win in the trenches, right? And so they went out and addressed that. They got tougher, they got better, they got more physical, all those things. And so I think they are better equipped to win in the playoffs now, if health is what it is. I mean, I think they'll need to be able to run the ball. They'll need to be able to stop the run. They need to be strong, in the middle of both lines. And so they did that. I think, initially as a start camp, I'm sort of curious to see what the health looks like. Where's Darisaw? Where's Fries?
Yes.
I don't know that at the beginning that those guys are, I wouldn't expect that they're going to be full, participation all the way. But, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see O'Connell's approach this training camp. Because it was more physical. You're right. Umbrage was the right word that he took with kind of the narrative about his team. If that changes going into this one, in this training camp, I mean, you have a veteran group, so I don't think you need to go out there and just try to prove something day one. I think you have guys that are going to bring that inherently, like Jonathan Allen, Kelly, Fry. I mean, you got some guys that are known for being, physical guys. So I don't think you have to work that into your group. You know what I'm saying? If that makes sense, it's not something you have to instill. I think these guys are bringing it to your team.
Right.
So, but it really, to me, as much as anything, it's just going to be all eyes on the quarterback.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the interesting thing though is, a year ago it was, okay, it's probably going to be Sam. McCarthy maybe wins it. But coming off the sort of odd 2023, last year when camp started, I didn't sense a lot of pressure. What's going to be interesting now is this will be the most pressure O'Connell enters a season under because of what you discussed. And yes, McCarthy being the starting quarterback nationally might change that. But I mean, this team is built for McCarthy to step in. And if you look at everything that they have surrounded him with, health provided, it is really, really quality. The only thing is, Fries I'm curious about. At right guard, he might be back the first day of camp, might not be. I think at some point in training camp he probably comes back.
Yeah.
My big question is, and we probably haven't talked enough about this, it's Darisaw at left tackle. Yeah. He might not start the regular season. And now the question is, can Justin School step in? And Darisaw, it's concerning because he doesn't stay healthy consistently, but when he's out there, he is elite. And that's a lot to ask from Justin School, who is essentially a career backup.
Yeah, and I mean he's Darisal's such an important part of their team, such a highly paid guy. I mean they're going to be cautious with him. Now, he did the first day of mandatory minicamp and didn't do the last two. I'm sure they have a detailed plan for camp and how they're going to approach that. But yeah, I just don't know. Is he going to be? I don't know if they know right now if he's going to be ready for the opener. Ideally, right. Yes, but
agreed.
I'm going to go back to what you said. It's interesting when we talk about pressure. And that doesn't mean like hot seat pressure. Obviously, nothing like that. But it's interesting because you have a couple dynamics. You have O'Connell and Kwesi just signed deals. O'Connell signed a long-term deal, right? So that's some long runway. You have a quarterback who's starting from scratch here. That's long runway, but a team that's built to win right now, and that's a veteran team. That's an old team, and so I understand the long play. Like, hey, they want McCarthy to have a long career and be great and all that, but also, can you be really good here early on? Because we have a veteran roster that's built to win right now, and so Harrison Smith and Jonathan Allen and all these guys are not, they can't afford to think about 2027. They want to win right now and make a deep playoff run. So it's a kind of an interesting dynamic there.
Well, and just to be clear too, because yes, I am not saying so. Like the pressure does not lead to firings if things don't go well. But I mean,
I think urgency is the right.
But we've all covered coaches put into this predicament, and like a coach knows if he might get fired, okay, and that's a pressure, but that's a different one. I'm talking about a pressure to like you've built this roster and it looks really good, and it's an internalized pressure to get things right, and it wouldn't lead to your firing, but I mean, it's still, how do you process that? Because like O'Connell, I don't think O'Connell's like, well, I signed a long-term contract, so I hope we're good. Yeah. Like they made moves here, and quite frankly, and he doesn't really let on too much, but the end of the season embarrassed him, I'm sure.
Sure.
His buddy kicked his butt, and the Detroit game was a disaster.
Yeah.
And so, like, they made moves. I mean, I do think the blessing, if there is such a thing, of those two games, those back-to-back defeats, was the moves that they made were predicated on those two games. And so, like, that's the pressure, is, like, the internalized, okay, it's time to go now. And I will say this, I think it's fair to say there's pressure to win a playoff game.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's then it'll be 3, one and dones, and then that becomes a narrative.
Correct.
Right? And then we love narratives. So yeah, and I think those last two games, and any team will say you never react or overreact to one or two games. I think it clarified, and it's it's. I don't know that they would have pivoted. I mean, it's kind of a fun exercise, but let's say Darnold would have played good or just average in those games. I don't know that they would have pivoted from their plan. Maybe there was more.
You think the offensive line? You think it gets I don't know, it gets overhauled completely. I think he was disgusted, rightfully so, because he had he had championed and had gotten sort of more toughness. In the early, that San Francisco game early was really impressive.
Sure.
And so I don't know that it would have altered their plan completely, but do I think that everyone in the interior of the line, offensive line, is gone? I don't know about that. That was a butt whooping, man. They got pushed around, and Jordan Mason, I think, is largely here because of something like that.
Yeah, and the Rams game, I think it just solidified it, and for O'Connell to be that transparent and forthright immediately after the game,
correct,
got to get better there.
Yeah,
you knew changes were coming. Do we know they were going to gut the entire interior and start over? I think a lot of us hoped and thought that was a thing, but maybe we thought it was unrealistic. But no, I think
correct.
I think it just absolutely crystallized how they have to change to not only be successful in the regular season, which they've proven under O'Connell, they can be that. They've done it twice, and I think they would have done it a third time had not all the injuries happened. But This was about being relevant in the playoffs, these moves, and being a team that can win in the postseason, can run the ball more effectively when they need to, can be physical in the run game, can just be better along the front, be bigger and defensively. So
and red zone, like that Detroit game, they were, poor Sammy. He was a mess, and O'Connell felt obligated to have him keep passing because he didn't think that they could score a touchdown from the deep red zone.
That's right.
You're not going to win a playoff game if you can't do that. Sorry.
No. I mean, you can't be. It's clear that he just didn't trust that it was going to work, and he felt like that was not an option in those situations. And when Darnold's, struggling to the degree he was, like, he had to keep going to it because he just didn't trust the other option. So, I think we'll hear when we talk to players and coaches next week, a lot of guys talking about now, like they believe in this team now, and they have high expectations, and they want to really be a team that's relevant in the postseason.
Yeah, and you know what? To your point there too. I don't know, and he might have, but I don't know. Harrison Smith comes back if they don't make these like this is an all in. I mean, if you think McCarthy, to go back to, I think it was our conversation a week ago on Purple Access, just manage the game right correctly, but now you got a run game, play action's a threat. Like if McCarthy manages games well, they can win.
Yeah, and
so like does Harrison Smith come back if they're like wishy-washy and they don't improve the lines? That might be I've sort of seen this this play or this movie before. He's coming back to exactly what you're talking about, though, which is we're sort of all in the deep end of the pool with a young QB, but a lot of things surrounding him that look really good.
I agree with that, and I think it works both ways. So they want Harrison Smith back if they don't think that they're close to being relevant. Like, we know how much Flores values him and O'Connell too, that if this was a team that didn't have high expectations and high ambitions, you might say, okay, we'll get younger there. We'll see. This is a team's like, no, we need to win right now. So let's bring a guy who's an important part of that back. And with Harrison, I know how much he loves playing for Flores but when you see the additions they made, and coming off a team that won 14 games, I'm sure he was like, hey, this is not a step back season. I don't think Harrison's in the mindset of anything stepping back. I mean, knowing the competitor he is. So it'll be interesting to see how many, I don't know, if we're going to have roster surprises this year, Judd. We always go into it saying, these, and typically it's probably only like 4 or 5 that really, that it's going to come down to. But, there'll be competitions in terms of kind of where you stack up on the depth chart, maybe a little movement there. But this is a team you can probably pencil in most of the starters right now and be pretty spot on for what it's going to look like, barring injuries, obviously.
Right. In fact, Chip Scoggins, one could say that the Vikings are expected to cook this season, which leads me to want to tell you about my friends at Stoked Barbecue Pellets. It's barbecue season, and that means it's time for Stoked, a company based and operated right here in our fine state. I've been telling you for a while now about the Barbecue Caddy. If you're a grill master, you are going to absolutely love it. Stoked solid oak firewood is perfect for your pizza oven, solo stoves, and also tabletop fireplace as well. You can find Stoked products at Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores, or check out their website, stokedbbq.com. That's stokedbbq.com to find their deal locator. But always start your search for Stoked at Fratelloni's Hardware and Garden Stores. Football might be here, but guess what? Plenty of summer left to enjoy barbecue season. Okay, so speaking of that, tell me this. What do you think are the most interesting competitions, not necessarily at starter, because I agree with your premise, but like third tight end? I mean, Johnny Munt's gone. Yeah. O'Connell's bummed about that. The nickel corner. Like, where are you most curious? Because there are some very important jobs that are going to be fought for, but they won't necessarily or aren't necessarily starting jobs.
Yeah, I think probably the one that I'm area that I'm most curious to see how it shakes out is defensive line rotation.
Yeah.
And the depth there. I feel like there's a lot of young guys there that the opportunity for expanded role is there. We saw Jalen Redmond last year. Is he going to continue? When he came in, he it felt like every game you saw him do something. Levi Drake Rodriguez. I mean, there's just a lot of guys, that are young, don't have a lot of experience. But I feel like they want those guys to step forward because you don't want to ask 30-plus-year-old guys to play a ton of reps. And the whole idea is to keep those guys fresh for the postseason. So I'm curious about that. I'm curious about the cornerback rotation and depth there to see how that shakes out, see what Mekhi Blackman looks like, to see if he can get back to where he was pre-injury pretty quickly. So I think those two areas are the most intriguing.
Mm-hmm. Jeff Okudah could be the starting third corner or get cut. So, but Blackman, I think he ultimately might be fine, but I like your question, which is how quickly.
Yeah.
And so there are some deep rotational spots or deep spots. And on the defensive line, what I like is, and I think this is the first time with O'Connell that this has happened, they've got quality veterans up front, but to your point, that's a wave system. Yeah. And now you're putting the Redmonds and potentially Levi Drake Rodriguez in exactly what you want, which is like they shouldn't have to be forced to start. They should get a lot of reps though. So it feels like, and of course everything is health provided, it feels like there's going to be far more of a rotational system that allows those young guys to develop. I think we talked about this too. I'm also curious, not just on Hargrave and Allen snap count, but also Harrison Phillips, who had a huge snap count 2 years ago. It came down, but was still substantial last year, and I would guess is going to come down again. So it does feel like you are in a better situation for the bodies that you have to be able to use guys in what I think we would consider a wiser manner.
Yeah, and I mean, they know going in, your frontline guys, you have a lot of trust in, a lot of faith in, but they're also older. And so as these other guys have to get to speed, and I think they will. This staff has proven to be pretty darn good at developing. And again, I keep thinking about Jalen Redmond and kind of the splash plays that we saw from him at the end of last year. And I think he even got a game ball one game where
he did.
Where O'Connell was like, every time I look out there, he's making a play. And so
you
want to see more of him and hope that, there's 5, 10, whatever reps it is more per game for him. And so I do think this training camp will be important for those guys to earn the trust, show the coaching staff how far they've come, what they've learned, all those different things, another year in the system. That it really comes down to trust. Can Flores trust you when he puts you out there to do different things, to play more snaps, that you're going to be productive? So I think for that group of guys, it's going to be really important for a really important camp and preseason games.
I'm also curious about the linebacker rotation. Not because Pace and Cashman wouldn't start in the interior, not the outside as much, but because it feels like Eric Wilson has some definite. He is superior to Pace against the pass, and I wonder if he's going to see a little bit more playing time there. Now he was signed, I think, because he's so damn good on special teams.
Sure,
but I do think that this is the first time that Flores has had all of the ingredients. Like 2 years ago, he had some. It wasn't great, but he did a fantastic job. Last year, it was better, but it feels like this year he's like being given all of the ingredients where he won't have to necessarily blitz as much, where he can get guys, ideally, if a team's going to pass, Pace is probably not out there. It feels like there's a lot more ability here as far as what that defensive group is going to look like.
Yeah, and if I look to the other side, we don't know Addison's legal situation. He had the one court case, I think, got pushed down the road a little bit more.
I think he's trying not to be found guilty.
Yeah, I don't know what the punishment, if there is going to be any there, but we talked about Naylor throughout the offseason, throughout the spring. I mean, he looks bigger. Are there other guys there? Rondell Moore, does he have a role? Is he going to be healthy? I want to see some of those young guys if they, if depending on what happens at Addison for just a couple games, if it is, but even more so, just to establish the depth there and see kind of how they fit in.
Sure, and it was intriguing. I think it was on T.J. Hawkinson's Instagram. If you saw this week, he put out an Instagram with McCarthy throwing to him and Josh Oliver. And what's intriguing to me is McCarthy's history at Michigan says he loves his tight ends, right? Mm-hmm. T.J. Hawkinson, who was coming back from the severe torn ACL a couple of years ago, and last year was out at the start of the season, came back. He played okay, but certainly was not great. I think T.J. Hawkinson, health provided again, could be sitting on an enormous season because I do think that McCarthy is going to use his tight ends a lot, and that fits in perfectly probably with what they want from TJ.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it time and time again where this is the first offseason where you're healthy and the first time where you're coming into, and so I expect he's going to have a big year, and I agree with you that he could be a good friend for J.J. McCarthy in his offense and that his numbers. And same thing with Josh Oliver, not to the extent probably that Hawkinson will be, but when Oliver signed his contract, I mean, that's something we talked about, how that gets overlooked in his game too. We talked so much about his blocking, but the guy makes some clutch catches too. So it's going to be fun kind of seeing how all this puts together and kind of particularly with camp, 'cause when you have a veteran team, not a lot of starting jobs open or available. I'm always kind of drawn to tone and vibe and just the sense you get about how a team, what they say, how they carry themselves, and I just think we're going to hear a lot of 14 wins was great, but that was last year. They have to redo, but this team is built to win now.
Yep. And again, playoff games.
And it'll be fascinating because, the NFL has shown us every year that there's going to be 4 teams that didn't make the playoffs that made it this year and 4 that don't. And who are going to be those 4 that made the playoffs last year that don't make it? That's why I find, this sport is so great and so fascinating. But I don't think, as we sit here today on July, whatever it is, 16th, I don't think the Vikings are going to be one of those teams that made it one year and made it last year and don't make it this year. I think this is a playoff team, Judd.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I think they're
a team that can win and win in the playoffs.
Yes,
I think they're capable of winning the playoffs.
I think within the confines of the state, including in Egan, I think if they do not make the playoffs, this season is a bust. Like, I don't think there's an option of, well, we didn't make it, McCarthy. And you know what, too? What's going to be really interesting to watch in training camp practices, in games, is this, how McCarthy handles the inevitable failure that comes with his job. Mm-hmm. I think he'll be fine. He strikes me as the type of guy who will be fine. But, I mean, this is going to be, there might be a lot of jobs decided, but this is going to be really intriguing. This will not be a boring camp. This will be a really intriguing camp.
Well, just for simple fact, anytime you have a new quarterback, it's always going to be extra, attention on it. But you have a new quarterback on a team that's built to win now that had a really good season last year. This is not a run-of-the-mill, boring training camp. This is going to be there'll be a lot of attention and, I think, excitement on it.
Absolutely. All right, Chip Scoggins, great stuff. Talk to you
I'll see you at the practice fields.
You will indeed. We will talk to you next week on Purple Access.
See you.